Steep overhangs I've avoided for a really long time, and it's probably because I was making a lot of mistakes while I did the overhang climbing that made it so it was difficult for me to enjoy and be able to climb as hard as I could on slight overhangs and slabs. So today I'm going to walk you through the mistakes that I've made and the mistakes that I've seen other people make, so that you don't have to worry about avoiding those steep overhangs and you can gain the confidence you need to send that route. Mistake number one is being way too stretched out or way too scrunched up when it comes to overhangs. And what I mean by this is you're reaching really high when your feet are super low, or your feet are really close to your hands and it's making your butt hang out really far. When you're stretching out really far, it's more likely that you're going to cut your feet and lose balance. Every time you cut your feet, it takes so much more effort to get your body back on the wall, especially in your core, than it would be just to maintain your position. So make sure that you are not completely stretched out and that you keep your feet in a good distance where you can move your hips in and out without losing your footing. The complete opposite of this is the scrunching up, where your feet may be too close to your hands. When this happens, it's practically impossible to keep your core in control because your butt is hanging so far away from the wall. So make sure that you're still able to control, again, move your hips in and out of the wall without cutting your feet, without any issues. If your butt is hanging out really steep, then it may be best for you to lower your feet a little bit or move your hands up a couple of times before you move those feet. Mistake number two is letting your hips hang down and also not letting your hips hang down. There's two parts to this. So when it comes to your hips hanging down on an overhang, if your hips are away from the wall, it can be hard to reach certain holds. So if you get your hip up close to the wall, then you'll be able to reach further. And you can do this by turning your hips. Doing drop knees, for example, is probably the best way to get your hips in towards the wall. Some people use flagging as well, and vice versa. If you're holding your body so tight to the holds the entire time, it may be difficult to see where your feet are, or it may be difficult to move your body because you're so exhausted. In these situations, it is okay to drop your hips so that you can see where your feet are going. But once you have your feet in place, that's when you're going to want to put your hips closer to the wall so that you can reach to your hands. Number three, I don't think is talked about enough, and that's engaging your shoulders. Just like in a pull-up, you need to keep your shoulders engaged so that you can use your back muscles while you're climbing. If your shoulders are rolled forward or they're touching your ears, it's likely that your back muscles have a really hard time activating because your shoulders aren't activated. So make sure that you roll your shoulders back and down while you're climbing. This will engage those large muscles in your shoulders as well as your lats and the rest of your back. Number four is definitely for beginners, and that's bent arms. Now that I've been climbing for a while, I did this video and I tried to bend my arms the entire route, and it was exhausting. When you're bending your arms, you're using a ton of effort, especially when you're doing steep overhangs. It's like doing a pull-up the entire time. Instead, straighten your arms out, put your feet in a position that supports that, and then use your shoulders to move where your arm needs to be. So if you need a little bit more stretch, instead of pulling your right arm in, pull your shoulder back further to get your left hand up. And this is just a trick that you'll learn and get better at the more you practice it. So remember, keep your arms straight, use your shoulders instead of your biceps. Number five is keeping your hips square to the wall. When it comes to overhangs, most situations, your hips being square to the wall will make it more difficult for you to stay close to the wall. In comparison, if you're trying to reach up with your right hand, put your right hip against the wall. This will not only bring you in closer to the wall so that you can use your feet better, it will also make it so that you're closer to the wall so that you can reach further distances with that right arm. When I was videoing this, I actually watched other people really struggling with this concept. All they had to do was a drop knee and they would have finished the route. So if you're not familiar with a drop knee, then check out this video on what to do with your feet, because I do go over drop knees. Essentially, what that does is it forces your right hip into the wall, plus it keeps your feet engaged so that you can use it as a good base for reaching the next hold. Number 6 is very situational, and it is keeping your toes on top of the holds. On overhangs, using things like toe hooks, heel hooks, as well as bicycles help you stay close to the wall and prevent your feet from flying out while you make big moves. My favorite is the heel hook, probably because I have much stronger hamstrings than I do shins. You'll probably see that throughout my climbing videos where I stick a heel as many places as possible because my heel enables me to pull my body in towards the wall much easier than many other techniques. When it comes to toe hooks, on the other hand, that's one that's really going to help you stay in place instead of swinging out. When your feet cut on an overhang, it can be exhausting to get them back on the wall. You may as well just campus up the rest of the climb if you're gonna cut feet the whole time, right? Well, if you're strong enough to campus, good on you, and I hate you. No, kidding. But instead what you can do is toe hooks and bicycles. This allows you to maintain your position with your feet while moving your hands. So it's not one that's going to pull your body into the wall, but it is one that's going to keep your feet on instead of swinging out.